Hi, welcome to the Technically Brilliant Show. The Technically Brilliant Show profiles Black filmmakers, artists, and creative technologists who work with mediums such as augmented reality, virtual reality, artificial intelligence to tell stories. The show is a co-production of Denton Black Film Festival and Black Public Media. I'm Lisa Osborne. I'm your host. I'm coming to you live from Atlanta. Today, our guest is Tamara Shogaolu, who is coming to us live from Amsterdam. Let's pull on Tamara.
Hello.
Hi, Tamara.
Hi, Lisa.
This is very exciting. I haven't spoken to you since Tribeca.
Yeah, no, exactly.
Yeah. Well, let's get into it. Usually we start by asking the filmmakers a little bit about their background. So I was wondering, when did you first start thinking about becoming a director? Like, is this a high school dream, elementary school dream? Like, when did that vision start?
I think it started when I was in undergrad. I didn't know like what the titles were, or what a director was versus a writer, but I had this job at a place called the Intercultural Community Center, and basically what this center did at my university was like make content that touched on social justice to try and bring community and awareness to these issues on campus. And I had to design programming around different issues about inclusion and diversity on campus, and I decided to start using film as a medium. So I just started.
So you were not like a film geek in high school or anything like that?
No. I thought I was going to be an economist, and I was studying economics, which I majored in.
Did you think you were going to the UN with that, or you were going to go be a banker?
No, I mean, my mom's an economist, so I think I thought
it's a family business.
Yeah, so I thought I would go into like development and doing that. That was kind of where I saw things going. And I grew up around a lot of economists now that I think about it. So I kind of thought that was the thing. And then I just decided to start experimenting with film. Like I'd been into photography since I was a kid. And I'd like learn how to develop and process film and stuff like that. But like art wasn't something that you did as a job.
Oh, wow. That's so interesting. Cause I like lived in the art room all 5 years of high school, basically. So if I had not majored in journalism, I would have majored in art, basically. And a lot of my friends did go major in art, like photography, graphic design, all the things. So that's really interesting. All right. So you're an econ major undergrad. You start experimenting with film as a social justice tool. And I feel like you have not strayed from that path. That's pretty much still what your career is about.
Yeah, which is very weird. Yeah, I just kind of started making film be part of my research as an economist. So like when I finished school, I got a Fulbright to do like economic research in the Middle East. And then when I was there, I on the side was like volunteering at film festivals to like learn more about stuff, and then seeing how I could utilize storytelling and filmmaking in like having basically my research that I was doing not just die in books.
Okay, got it. Yeah. Where was, you said you went to the Middle East to do your Fulbright. Where specifically were you?
I was in Egypt, and then I ended up being there for like almost 5 years. And
oh, wow.
Yeah. And then before that, I had studied abroad in Jordan because I was really interested in the Middle East. And I spent some time doing like economic research there also.
Got it. Do you speak Arabic?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
So do I. Lies. So do you remember when you first saw an augmented reality app or experience? Like, was that in undergrad? Was it when you were in Egypt? Like, you know?
Yeah, I think it was actually like web docs back in the day, because basically after I was in Egypt, I decided, okay, I really love this and I'll continue if I'm able to go into film school. So then I decided to apply to film school, and I went to USC. And then USC at the time was starting out this like interactive program, and you could take classes in different areas. And I had tried some web docs, and when I was younger, when I was a kid, like I was into making websites and stuff like that. But then but it was never like, I mean, I just made like silly stuff. And then so I was always curious about it, and I'd seen this web doc on like the National Film Board of Canada, like the one with the apartments where you explore them. And I thought that was really
Kat
cool.
Chizek's piece.
Yeah, exactly. And then like I started getting more curious about what was happening, and New Frontiers at Sundance was starting then. And I started taking just like interactive classes, trying to combine.
At USC or outside of USC?
No, at USC. So I did like a couple installations when I was there, just with like processing, and back then everything kind of revolved around the Xbox a little bit. So like people could walk, and you could do basically like movement interactions, but I didn't really know what people were doing with it. But I loved the idea of maybe doing public art with it, or doing something, but I didn't know what the path was. So it was just something that I was doing for fun.
Was your first website a MySpace site, or was it before MySpace?
No, it's actually about food.
No, but I mean, what platform was it built on?
Oh, like, no, it was like HTML. Like,
okay.
So yeah. And I had code, because I started like a cooking club when I was in high school. And then I made like a website for it. But
so let's talk about Unresolved. What is Unresolved about?
Unresolved is many things. It's a multi-platform series, basically, that is composed of a documentary, a podcast, 2 installations, a web interactive, and it's all about basically racially motivated murders from the civil rights era. And that's kind of a loose term for murders that occurred between like the 1930s and 1970s, that are unresolved or went cold. And it's based on, I found out recently, over 15 years of investigative reporting, basically, into some of these cases. So we go into, in the whole series, we go into 52 of these cases now.
Oh, wow.
Discovered. And then all of these different parts or components focus on different aspects of it, and are also different points of entry for audiences to connect to these as well.
Got it. Is it 151 cases, or is it 151 victims? Because I get that confused sometimes.
No, they're both victims, and each victim has a case. So,
I see. Okay. Because I know, like, in some cases, like, you know, one incident can result in multiple deaths, which is why I didn't know. I just wanted to clarify that.
No, but that's kind of what happened in one, like a few weeks before we finished, they discovered another name, and it was actually a victim, like somebody who was already on the list.
Yeah.
And this person had been killed at the same time, and they didn't know. And the reporters didn't understand why one was deemed racially motivated, but the other wasn't. And they were both Black individuals. And there had been a lot of like questioning around this case, and then now there's they realized there was another name on this list. Yeah.
Okay, got it. Well, why don't we go ahead and watch the pitch video that you guys showed at the BPM Plus showcase in April of 2021, and then we'll come back and talk more about the project.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Tamara Shogaolu, and I'm a filmmaker and creative technologist. And I'm also the creative director of Ato Pictures, which is a studio focusing on film and neo and immersive media. We've been collaborating with Frontline on a really significant and socially relevant project called Unresolved. Unresolved is a multi-platform experience. It's composed of a podcast, a film, and I've been responsible for the interactive web experience and the traveling augmented reality installation. When designing this project, I was really inspired by looking at the role of the tree as a symbol in American history, and the ability to design an experience that mixes art and technology with powerful investigative journalism to bring to life the stories of victims of racially motivated murders. Now here's a preview of Unresolved.
I heard of Jackson, and nobody has ever been tried.
Mr. Speaker, the time has come. There are hundreds, maybe even thousands of these crimes that were never brought to justice. There are murders who have walked free for decades while the families of victims cry for justice. Passing this bill is the least we can do, and we must do something to right these wrongs.
When we think of family trees, we look at it as a connector between generations, but also there's the dark history of trees and the association with racial terror in American history. And I wanted to kind of reclaim that, to turn these into beautiful spaces.
FBI, the Department of Justice, somebody knows something.
In later years, I asked questions about what happened.
I wanted to allow audiences to participate in the memorializing of these individuals who lost their lives tragically.
Roman Duckworth Jr.
By exploring the different chapters and the stories of these individuals, the audience member actually literally acts as a source of light to the experience. Often when we talk about the civil rights era or racially motivated murders, it feels like it's something from another time. I think that using technology to bring it to the now and also have it exist in a physical space is something really powerful. The way that I designed the experience, you have to say the name of the person in order to be able to access their story and learn about their cases and hear from their next of kin. And the idea is that all 151 names are surrounding us.
If people forget who we are, as they have in the past, we'll remind you, because we are going to be here. We're always going to be here.
I really truly believe in the depths of my soul that if we're going to have peace, if we're going to have healing, everything must come out. We must tell the whole story, the complete story.
Great. It's such a powerful overview video, and I want to congratulate you again on completing the project and debuting it recently at Tribeca a month ago. How long did it take you to develop both the web experience and the AR experience? Approximately how many months did that take? Oh, we can't hear you.
Oh, I'm sorry. I had muted myself. Sorry.
Right.
Yeah, thank
How long
you.
did it take to design both things?
Yeah, I think a part of the concept when I was first approached and I had to submit, like there was a call for proposals and I submitted a proposal, I already had the concept of the quilt based on like the original concept. And we started production on the installation in February. So from February to
2020?
Yeah, 2021. Okay. Yeah, this is 2020.
This is 2021.
Yeah. So February 2021 through June, we worked on the installation. And then from, I would say around July through end of January, we worked on the web interactive.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
So and then each took about half a year, or the surprisingly, the AR exhibit took shorter amount of time than the developing the web experience.
Yeah. I think it was because there were like different aspects of the project that we were working on throughout. And maybe it's because the concept of the installation, like I already kind of had a clear idea when I had submitted the proposal at the beginning. But the web interactive, I think also had to do there was a lot of reporting that was changing as things were happening. Okay. So by the time we went into the installation, a lot of that information had kind of been been set. And
Okay.
in the web interactive also has a great more deal of animation. Like we did a few animated chapters and moments that users get to explore, and those were like hand-drawn animation.
Oh, wow. Okay, which is quite time consuming.
Yeah.
So what is the augmented reality memorial made in?
It's built in Unity, like so it's coded in Unity, and then there's of course the physical component of the installation as well.
Is it fiberglass? What is it? Plexiglass? What is it?
Yeah, it's so there's 13 panels, which are quilts that are on burlap. And then there's 13 different ones, and each one of them has motifs that are inspired by different victims. And then there's silhouettes, and the quilts overall are kind of a representation of the data of the cases as well. So when you see the installation, you get to see that there's like one silhouette is of a woman, where some of them were women. There's a couple for children. The majority of them were Black men, and then there's a Native American man as well. So as you're looking at the visuals as well, you get a sense of what the list is composed of.
Got it. So let's say I'm, in, I don't know, the Art Institute or the High Museum here in Atlanta, and I walk up, I see this installation, not the web piece, but the augmented reality piece, and on a particular floor. Walk me through the experience. Like, what happens when I walk up, and how long does it take to go through? What equipment do I use? How does it work?
Yeah, I mean, it's users are invited to download the app on their phone, so they can download it on an Apple or Android. They're both on both app stores. And then after that, you kind of are invited. It's best experience with headphones. So you put on headphones, and there's a narrator who kind of walks you through. You activate a start marker, and then you're able to walk through sort of these stars that symbolize the other names that aren't on this list as well, like other racially motivated murders, and through the history of it. And then once you explore the panel, and we look at it as like a living quilt that you're able to explore and use your phone to explore the stories that are hidden within this quilt.
So the app, because I thought I saw QR codes on the installation in the overview video. Is that what the app is using? It's reading QR codes?
Yeah. So once you pick a name with your phone, like you land on it, and then you scan it, and you can choose to proceed with it and explore the story. And then you're invited to say the name of the person. And you have to say the name a few times, and you'll start seeing visuals of like leaves sort of growing, and then you see the person's face kind of float in as you transition into the victim's story and page. And some of them have audio, so once you're in there, you can play the audio and you hear from the relatives or next of kin. You can read more about their cases and the status, and kind of like how the FBI and the Department of Justice dealt with it. And you can also go to the website and explore more. And then you're able to kind of go through and explore as many of these as you want at whatever pace you can handle or manage. We invite you to take breaks throughout, and then you'll start seeing points of light that emerge. And the points of light that are hidden amongst the quilt, those hold more information that give context to the investigation and also to the design.
So they're like Easter eggs sprinkled throughout. Okay, got it. So how tall are these panels in person?
They vary in height. So the shortest one, I would say, I think is around a meter tall.
This is America. We need to talk in old English metrics. What is a meter?
It's 3 feet, I think, right? Yeah, a meter is 3 feet.
So how many meters did you say?
Yeah, a meter.
So like, they're like 3 feet tall?
Some are really short, yeah, and then some are really tall. And then the tallest one is 7 feet, around 7 feet tall.
Okay, got it. Talking about a meter, please. Americans don't know anything about a meter. We're like, what is it? I don't understand. So from 3 feet to 7 feet tall, and they look like they're maybe 2 feet wide. Is that about right?
Yeah, okay. And so they vary in height, and then they're placed in a sort of circular form.
It was kind of Stonehenge from what it looked like from the photos I saw from Tribeca. Was that intentional? It felt very much like a Neolithic, religious site?
Yeah, I mean, not really, but that's interesting in the sense of like, it's interesting to see how many references people see, because I was just trying to create something that celebrated the lives of these people.
Right.
So there's a lot of themes in there. Like there's these trees that are etched in the back of the glass that symbolize like sort of family trees and connections and how we're all connected, and also a way to reclaim the sort of symbol of the tree.
Right,
and,
you're
like,
subverting the normal meaning of trees when it comes to Black people and racially motivated murders. So that's really interesting.
And with the circles, I was thinking more about like the rings on a tree, but also like the circular nature of life. And when I was doing research for the quilts, there were like some quilting symbols that you find in a lot of African American quilting traditions, and some of them stem back to Africa, and there's symbols like the diamond, which mean like the cycle of life. So playing with that, there's a lot of symbols in the installation itself as you explore that symbolize life.
Got it. So the piece isn't really just like a encyclopedia approach of like click on a name and you get a whole bunch of information. There's that, but it's also really, in my opinion, a really beautiful artistic homage to lives that are lost and lived, and I really appreciate the thoughtfulness that you put into the design and the fact that it is multi-layered and that you didn't just approach it like click here to get more information, like it was a Wikipedia about these brutal murders. So have you designed public art before? I'm sorry, what were you saying?
No, I was going to say that I think one of the things that when I was first looking into it that really kind of shocked me a little bit was some of these stories are people who were really radical and like big agents of change. Like there was a woman named Alberta Jones in there who was the first female prosecutor in Kentucky, period. Like not the first Black female prosecutor, but the first female prosecutor. And a lot of these people were killed because they were trying to promote change. Or, I mean, it's crazy the amount of people that were killed for trying to vote, and like, and these are things where these are figures that really impacted our rights that we were able to subsequently get. And there's like Jimmy Lee Jackson in there, who at the time I didn't know instigated the sort of his death led to the Selma protest, which, led to many of us being able to vote. And I think that we need to remember these names and celebrate them, because their deaths, even though these cases are unresolved, have also led to changes in our lives. So I wanted to make sure to celebrate them in that way, I think.
Have you ever designed a piece of public art before, something that was intended to be seen, out in the open, with no gatekeeping whatsoever, just sort of live out in the public?
No, this was my first time doing that, which was really fun. I mean, it was like, from a technical perspective, I said that it was like building a transformer, because it needed to be able to exist indoors, outdoors, daytime, nighttime, and still be a complete experience at all times. And of course, there's like safety concerns. I had heard about like recent tagging on like Black Wall Street Gallery and stuff like that. So I was a little bit nervous about maybe some of that happening, but but everything worked out, and it was really beautiful to watch. Sometimes I would just sit there and watch people interact with it. It was really moving.
Would you design another public XR piece, something that was in virtual reality or digital reality? Now that you've been through the experience once, are you interested in designing more public art?
Yeah, for sure. I would love to. I love the process of designing this. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Because some people, would go through that experience and be like, oh, there's too many mitigating factors, much less the reaction of the public, which is also an unknown factor. You know what I mean? Were any of the descendants or relatives of people who were murdered able to visit the piece in New York, or not yet?
Yeah, I was able to meet a few of them, and I think that really hit me, because I mean, at a certain point, like you read, and when I started reading these stories, when I was first approached about this project, it was in the middle of the George Floyd protests, and it was a lot to like read that, be in a pandemic and be in these protests. And then during the year, like I was like, okay, I have the opportunity to make something that can hopefully connect, like show us how the past is still present today. And through that process, I at some point you start focusing on the technical part. And when I met the individuals, I realized how much more weight this had, where like
Right.
they started, you know, like taking photos next to the name. And,
Oh, wow.
and I realized that in some cases, this was like the only physical acknowledgement that they had.
Marker. Yeah, the only public
Of their
acknowledgement.
relative and what their relatives had done. And some of them are still like, one of the relatives, like she's written a play about her great uncle who was murdered and his fight for voting rights. Another woman that I met, like she's a big like voting rights activist. So it was also interesting to see how they were impacted, even though in some cases there were a few generations removed. They were so impacted by this relative that they've turned into civil like engagement from that as well.
That's amazing. You never know. I mean, it's good to see good things or positive things come out of something tragic, first of all, but you never know what impact your work will have. You know, you think that you're working in isolation, or that you're, you know, only working within a certain field, or you know, in a certain region or location, and then you find out that, you know, what you're doing actually has just a much larger ripple effect than what you expected. I also wanted to find out from you if you'd be interested in doing this type of work, but for commercial clients, for lack of a better way to put it. Think, you know, like, would you ever do a public installation for like Fashion Week, you know, for Gucci or, you know, Patagonia or something like that? Or do you just want to stick to sort of what I'll call public interest and social activism, nonfiction?
I don't know. I think I'm like just fascinated by stories, and I think that spans, like, I would love to be able to collaborate with a brand that is doing something that is socially relevant.
Okay.
And I think that a lot of my inspiration comes from that, and that's why I find brands like Telfar or Patagonia to be really interesting, because they are making social commentary. And I think as an artist, I want to say something. And if I can partner with a brand that is saying something, I think something like that would be great. Or even some of the work that Nike is doing with the environment and women, and being able to like collaborate on that would be super interesting, I think.
Okay, that makes sense. To like take the commercial, but because you operate, you know, that would be the perfect intersection for you. The commercial meets social activism in some ways. So that makes total sense. So what's next for you, Tamara, as we wrap up?
I'm working on a Black Girl Magic project, which I'm really excited about. And it's a location-based, like sound-driven interactive experience with wall projections, about a young Black girl in Amsterdam who gets her powers through spoken word and the songs of her ancestors, basically.
So what is the timeline for that? Is it already fully funded, or are you looking for funding? Like, how is that going?
No, I'm currently looking for finishing funds. So we already have like 75% of it funded. So we're looking for 25% to kind of just finishing funds to close the gap. And right now, so we're working on that, and then hopefully going into production in the fall, and looking to finish in like early next year. Yeah.
Very cool. Very, very cool. Well, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you so much for having me on the show.
I'm so excited to see where Unresolved is going to go next. And I'm excited to see what you're going to work on next, especially with this Black Girl Magic. Is it a feature? Is it a series? What is it?
Yeah, it's called Anushka, and it's so it's kind of like a story universe where we made a short with the support of Netflix called The Braid of Time, which was animated, and then now this is also part of the same universe but with a different character and is interactive. And I'm also hoping to develop like a series out of it. And it started as an interactive concept and has like grown and developed into more things.
Obviously, my goodness, it's like you world built an entire universe. Oh, that is fantastic. I can't wait to in 3 years to buy my Anushka lunchbox.
I hope so.
And my Anushka t-shirt. I am manifesting it now. I'm putting it out into the world.
I will manifest that too.
Yeah, exactly. I'll say, remember in July of 2021 when I called the lunchbox thing? Well, thank you so much. Have a lovely day. And thank you everybody for joining us on this last episode of the Technically Brilliant Show. It's been fantastic getting to talk to all the filmmakers and the executives about their work. If we are able to find funding to do additional shows, we will absolutely proceed. And in the meantime, please enjoy all 9 episodes, which are on YouTube, on Instagram television, on Facebook, and also on Vimeo. Thank you so much for joining us, and goodbye from Denton Black Film Festival and Black Public Media.